to the Business of Dance podcast, where you'll learn what it takes to create your dream professional dance career.
Join us as we dive into the insights and experiences of the world's top dance industry professionals, including dancers, choreographers, agents, casting directors, educators, and other dance industry experts.
We explore a diverse range of topics, from personal development and mental skills to audition techniques, creating meaningful industry connections, social media marketing, seeking out dance agents and casting opportunities, on-the-job etiquette, talent unions, pitching to the media, health, finances, and so much more.
Here is your host, Menina Fortunato.
So super excited about our guest of the day. She is someone that I recently met. It really wasn't that long ago. She is a professional dancer. She is a teacher. She is a choreographer. She is a coach. She is a personal trainer. She is the host, creator of the well-known podcast, Dancespeak. In her last 17 years of the industry, she's choreographed for Prince, the purple one. She's also choreographed for the WNBA LA Sparks. She has danced with Pharrell, MC Light, and she is one of the recurring hosts on Doctors for Dancers. Please help me welcome, let's give virtual applause to Miss Galit Friedlander. Yes, welcome. Woo! So happy to have you.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So let's start at the beginning. Can you just kind of give us the short version of your backstory? Who is Galit? Where did you start your dance life? And leading it up until where we are today.
All right, perfect. I'm going to try to be concise. If I'm too concise, I'm an open book. Hello, everyone. So my name is Galit. I'm born and raised in New York City originally. I woke up one morning when I was 12. So I had taken some ballet when I was 6. I had a favorite teacher. I was literally like flopping around and just having fun. She left and I quit. One day I wake up, I'm around 12 years old. I asked my mom, why did I never go back? But not like quizzically, just like, why did I never go back? She didn't know and I didn't know. And y'all, that's literally how I started dancing again. And I just fell in love with it. And dance was the thing that you're not, like, I was told kind of like, this is not what you're really supposed to have fun, but don't pursue a career in it. And I just loved it so much. I went to performing arts high school. It's known as the famed School of LaGuardia, New York City. And I went for theater and I would do intensive theater training during the day, dancing in the evenings and over the weekends, living my best life. Went to college, got a degree in communication. And it was actually my mom, as it was spring break. I was about to graduate, didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And she was like, you've been talking about dance for all these years and this would be the time to do it. And so it was on that fateful moment on my favorite sofa in New York. And I was like, okay, yeah, that feels good. That resonates. And at the time I went to USC, by the way. So I went to a college in Los Angeles because I knew I wanted to get a degree. And I also figured, okay, if I can go to school in any region, why not acclimate to LA, see how the vibe is? Because I knew it could be rough to just come here and like need to make your career happen right away. So I was at USC and then I just kept staying in LA and I started the pathway of becoming a pro dancer. And there was no clear way to do it. So now you have like these mentorship programs and tons of choreographers and people who've done it that are breaking it down. That was not happening at the time. And that was part of the inspiration behind the podcast is I started learning slowly over time, like how you become a professional commercial working dancer in LA. I started hearing these stories and felt like I needed to share them. So that's how I'm here today.
Now, speaking of, what you learned even in your journey in LA, there, as you say, there is no roadmap, if you want to say, everyone has their own journey. What is it that you have learned through your own progress that you wish you knew sooner that might have maybe changed your pathway or maybe had faster success, or did everything happen the way it was supposed to?
Oh my God, there's so much learning curve and still a reflection. And I'm still always learning. Like now I really have my focus on teaching choreographing and bringing fitness to dancers and, personal training. So it's different, but I'm always learning. Some things I wish I knew, and I could do this forever. So I'll try to keep it short. One is you're not old. Like that's what I would tell myself because I always felt like like, so I graduated college, I was 22, and then I'm like 23, and I felt like I was an old dancer. And now I look at 23-year-olds and I'm like, I know it's older than you all here, but I'm like, oh my God, you're baby. Like, you have time. And I didn't realize how many dancers it took them. Like, you'll always have people that are reaching a certain level at any given age. You're going to have the famous 4-year-old, and you're going to have 40-year-olds on tour, and you're going to have 80-year-olds in commercials. But I always felt like I was too old. And so it put this stress on me. And it also wasn't accurate. Like, I feel with every year, I'm actually a better dancer. I connect with the music better. I know my body better. It's different, but that's one thing. So it put all this pressure on me. And it also wasn't accurate. I didn't realize like I was actually at the younger end of the people I was auditioning with, and I had tons of time. Because if you take care of your body, you're going to have a lot of years in this dance world. Another thing is there was this thing going around where people were like, don't become a professional class taker. And I don't know if that's happening anymore, because sometimes, yes, there can be a time when you're training so much and you are ready to audition and you just need to like put yourself out there. And there was this whole thing, you know, about don't take so much class that you're not doing it. But the way that I incorporated it was like, okay, if I need to be a professional dancer, I need to take less class. I feel like I was under training at some point. And like I could have kept on taking a lot of class, just make sure I'm also prioritizing getting the jobs and putting myself out there. And I'll just give one more thing I wish I knew: to take every piece of advice, and I know I'm giving advice right now, with a grain of salt, because I take advice to heart and I would hear conflicting things, or I would hear things that didn't resonate with me. You know, like people would say, okay, this is what you need to do for your look. Like, I remember being told I don't have a look, and I felt like I had to look different than how I do. And that would be like one person's strong opinion, but not everyone's. I think what I needed to do was just get that much more grounded in who I was and figure out like what my vibe is, more than trying to look or be a certain way. And just know like, yeah, there's a lot of loud opinions and they could also all be right, but it's really important to hold on to the things that resonate. If something just does not feel good in your being when you're told like you should do this, then okay, maybe that worked for the other person, but like not worth it. There are tons of other ways to make this happen. So those are my top three.
I love that. I absolutely love that. One of the things you touched on, I want to elaborate a little bit more, is you talking about how you want to bring fitness to the dance world. How important is it for a dancer to be in tip-top shape? And how can that affect their ability to book work, their ability to have longevity in this career? What would you say when it comes to being in physical shape?
So I would ask everyone as a rhetorical question, like, do you have a sport you follow, like soccer or football or gymnastics or like any sport, or that you know it exists, right? All of those athletes are doing training outside of the thing they do. So like a football player, the most elite athletes, all of them, it would be like asking to get an injury if they weren't cross training. That means strength training and doing other physical things to help them at their main thing. I say it's like, it's essential. It's that important. Why is it that any Olympic athlete of any kind, they're going to have tons of ways that they train for their sport or their specialty, and it's essential. So why like are dancers any less athletic? It's really important because, and it's so hard to sometimes explain it without like this could be like a whole other thing, but it's like a car. Like, you know, you have to stop for gas, right? Like everyone is in driving places pretty much. If you don't put gas in your car, eventually it breaks down, and that's our bodies. It's just happening on a longer timeline. So it's literally the difference between you getting or not getting injuries very often. It's the difference between your movement quality. So if you're constantly doing the same exact movement in a dance, a piece of choreography or combo, you might be getting really good at it, but you might also be wearing yourself down. And you have to make sure that you're strengthening and training yourself around it. And then also there's something about dancers who know their body by different disciplines. So taking different disciplines of dance, but even outside what you might have at a typical studio, like, are you taking, you know, have you jumped into a samba class or West African class? You're going to have something different in your movement. It's the same thing if you do strength training. You're going to be able to, instead of like when I work with dancers that have a strong cross-training background, instead of feeling like, oh, okay, is that person okay? Did they go full out? it always looks like they can give more in the best way. Like they're full out, but they're going to be good. So, but it's that important. It's as important as it for an Olympic athlete to have a team of trainers. Same for dancers.
100%. Speaking of trainers, and do you want to share your specialty and what it is that you teach and your services when it comes to being a personal trainer?
Yeah. So I wear all the hats in terms of dancing, choreographing, teaching. So I fully understand the demands of dance. I am also into my 30s, and I'm telling you, I'm moving better than I ever have the best stamina I ever have. And it's literally just because I know how to cross-train my body. So I started creating, because I have people like all over the world, a lot of dancers that are asking me similar questions. And what I was doing is, because between dancing and my work, I don't have a lot of time to work out, and I don't have a lot of energy to work out. So I would find myself working out at home, or if I'm traveling teaching, I'm working out at the hotel. Like literally whatever's closest to me is my gym. Like if there's a floor, it's my gym. So I created 2 programs, and you can access the videos at any time. So one of them is called Fit from Home, and I created it during the pandemic. And while I was creating it, I also just decided to jump into a dance intensive as a dancer and like see what I'm made of. And it was amazing. My body was ready for it. So I have that. And then I also have something called Fitness Fundamentals. So a common misconception is dancers, just because we have this amazing, we're so tapped into our bodies, and we have you have years of dance under your belt. I made the mistake of thinking like I could just skip levels when I was taking yoga or doing fitness, but I learned that just how, like, everyone's taking ballet here. If you don't have that plie on, like if you don't have that on deck, if you don't understand how to properly point your toe and extend through the foot and not grip through the thigh in the wrong way, it's going to catch up with you. But if you have those foundational understandings, it's going to get you farther and farther and farther, no matter how advanced you get, right? So like the stronger our basics, the stronger our advancement. So with that in mind, I also created something called Fitness Fundamentals. And that's like giving you here are some core exercises to do. I also have exercises you can do if you have an injury. So if you need to avoid wrists, or if you need to at some point avoid knees, and it's 10 different workouts, and you access it at any time. And you're also learning like your foundations of fitness and ways that you can train alongside with dance. Just so you know, it's at gogalit.com, GOGALIT.com, online fitness course. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to share. And I've been teaching stretch and strength for years at studios. Movement lifestyle shut down, but movement lifestyle, T-Million, going around to different dance groups. And then on the other side of it, I've been teaching hip hop, whacking fundamentals, jazz funk, all that fun stuff. And then I also train clients one-on-one. So I get to go through the gamut, and it's really fun also. When I work with professional dancers, sometimes it's like 1 or 2 sessions just so they understand the proper form for the things that they're doing when they're preparing for that show or that performance.
I love what you're saying, and I couldn't agree with you more. That's one of the things that I have noticed. Dancers that work the most are the ones that are physically in their best shape, not just in dance, but whether they're strength training or doing yoga or Pilates or all the different other types of movement classes that focus on being strong and aligned. And just out of show of hands, if you do cross training, and dancers, raise your hand if you do any type of cross training. If you don't, that's okay too. But I just want to kind of get an idea. Okay, cool. So if you're not cross training, maybe this is a day to start thinking about how you can incorporate other types of movement and some kind of strength training to your training, so that not only do you look and feel your best, but you perform at your best when you're in the best physical shape.
So here's also a tidbit, because I know that can be very daunting. Like, what does that even look like? Well, first of all, anyone on here, feel free to just reach out, ask me questions. You can do it on Instagram at gogalit, GOGALIT. An error that I've seen and that I've done before is we go so hard with dance. I would think I have to go that hard with strength training, or if I'm taking a yoga class or doing Pilates. And I learned for myself, and with just about everyone I've worked with, we don't have to strengthen our bodies in the way that we take a dance class. In fact, we probably shouldn't. Like, if you are realistically dancing 5 days a week, or for 3 hours a day, or when you're at convention, that's even a whole other beast, you're probably going to hurt yourself if you work out too hard. You want to start small and start building that strength with exercises that are like, this is a whole other conversation, but start with like exercises for your core. The exercises start with your place. Start with learning proper squat form. Don't go heavy right away. Just because you can, don't do it. You want to start getting those muscles fired up in a certain way, but you don't want to overtrain yourself, because dancers, we know how to push ourselves. Sometimes it's actually a matter of scaling back 20% that's going to have us do better.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing those tips. So dancers, start with your core and start basic, start small. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about your dance career. Do you have any favorite dance gigs in your lifetime that you love, and why?
As a dancer, so not choreographing?
Yeah, just as a dancer. We'll get to choreography in a minute. I want to talk, because you have so many different hats that you wear. We talked about personal training. Now I want to talk about Galit the dancer.
Yeah. One was, I did this music video for Pharrell called Happy, and I got a text that day, hey, are you available? I'm like, yeah. And I wasn't fully available. I was working a side job, and I basically was figuring out I had to learn how to lip sync. I had to be able to lip sync the lyrics and be at a certain location. So I figured out how I was going to leave the job early. I'm not saying do things without integrity, but it's Pharrell. And then I remember putting the music on in my car and just blasting Happy and trying to sing along and like messing up half the lyrics and thinking like, oh my God, my life's about to change. And it was a freestyle gig. And I love freestyling. I do choreography and freestyle. What I love about freestyle is you really don't have to worry about messing up, because you're freestyling. Like, you set the tone. It was a single shot. So usually with music videos, you're going to have multiple takes or anything for camera. Hopefully it was one shot. We filmed it at like 11 p.m. in East Hollywood. There were people on the street. The person filming was in a wheelchair, and it had a disclaimer, like, anyone who's like, here, you are being filmed and you're okay with it, which was slick. And I was just dancing down the street. I literally rolled on the street. I danced with strangers. It was just so freeing, exhilarating. And there's nothing like feeling like you've prepared for something and then it comes. It was through a dancer I knew. She was working with the choreographer and reaching out to people she knew. I feel like that's something that's so undervalued. People in the dance world, it's like we're looking at, hey, who can hire us? Who can hire us? And a lot of the time, if you are a kind person, a solid person, and you work hard, it'll sometimes be that person to the right or the left. Like, eventually they're going to be in a position to hire you. And if they like you and they want to be around you and they know what you do, that person might be the person who hires you. And it's really nice when it happens.
I love what you just said, because this is a lot of the interviews that we've done. This is the common theme of just being a good person, because you never know that person next to you. In other words, the people in this room next to you, you never know who may be the next big choreographer, director, casting director, agent, whatever, and how you made them feel once upon a time when you were a nobody, maybe when they were a nobody. That's what they'll remember, more so than your talent. There's a million talented dancers. All of you are talented. But what sets you apart? Usually it's those little things of just being a nice human being, having those relationships, having those connections, which is why I put you in front of people like Galit, so that you can make those connections, so that maybe one day when the stars align, maybe you'll cross paths. Maybe there'll be an opportunity for you to collaborate. So thank you so much for reiterating what I say all the time, what other people have said as well, because it is so true that relationships are key to everything in this business.
When you let go of needing something from someone and instead figure, what can I give this person? So I always try to give the people around me energy. It does not matter if I'm the teacher in the room, if I'm hired by a choreographer. It feels good. I hype people up. I give people energy. When you're giving people something, they're also going to still remember you. And it doesn't have that, like, what can I get? And that person hiring you also might not be like a known big deal, but they might be in the room with that person who's looking for exactly what you do. Yeah. So
100%. I love that. All right. You got so many facets to your life. Let's switch gears again to Galit the choreographer. You choreographed for many years for the WNBA LA Sparks. For the dancers that don't know who that is, they are the female NBA team based in Los Angeles. They play at the Crypto Arena. and you work with kids. And because a lot of my audience are kids, and teens, amazing. Yeah. And that's a bulk of who I have in front of me. What do you look for as a choreographer when you are booking any dancer, but specifically kids and teens?
So the team is hip hop, and it's legit. It's hip hop. It's not something we're calling hip hop that isn't. Sometimes I'll use other dance styles. I need dancers who have grooves that that can dance, not just hit a line and be sharp. That's important too, but dance with soul and groove. Hip hop has a technique to it. If they've learned the technique and some of the adjacent other street styles, like if, we're in an audition and then somebody starts popping, I'm like, ooh, I can use that. They're going to stick out. So first of all, that they have legit like hip hop technique and groove that they can perform, because you could be the best dancer, but if you can't perform, this is a performance job. You're like, I can't work with that. And then the third, I look at how dancers are being in the room. So if someone is super fierce, but they're in and we're not looking, for something wrong, but it seems like the energy is off. We know you're nervous at an audition. We have to notice that, or not paying attention, or actual behavior, because I don't have a lot of time in rehearsal with the dancers to get this choreography together. So I need dancers that are easy to work with. So I need to see groove, performance, easy to work with. And we've taken on dancers every season, sometimes that we're okay, they're not completely refined yet in their execution, but we feel like they have enough passion that they can pull up, and they usually end up being one of the best.
I love that. Excellent, excellent, excellent advice. Now I want to shift gears again to Galit, the teacher. First of all, give a backstory. What have you trained in? But what do you specialize in now as a teacher? And where could people find you? And what are you available to teach if anyone wants to hire you?
Love it. Okay. So my training, and this includes even doing small snippets. And so I'm not saying I'm amazing at all. I love my disclaimers, but I trained in ballet, jazz, important technique for modern, a little bit of tap, West African, a little bit of salsa, a little bit of samba, and then hip hop, house, voguing, whacking, popping, locking. And that's about it. And it took I did a hair of breaking as well. When I teach, I love bringing, I don't know if you know this, New York City is the birthplace of hip hop, and coming up there, being trained by dancers who are pioneers, there's something that I feel I can bring to spaces that's unique. So I really love teaching hip hop. That's one of the biggest things I'm focusing on. I can teach foundational street styles classes. I love teaching a foundational whacking class. I was mentored by an original Soul Train dancer, Tyrone Proctor, rest in peace. And I love teaching the things that he gave to his students, and then conditioning for dancers, and jazz funk. I love a good fusion class. So 100%. Those are the main things. And then I've been focusing right now on going to different studios and jumping in for a workshop or a series of classes. There's a lot that can be done in a small period of time with the way that I teach. I always point to different influences, a little bit of history, because what I was given that I love giving dancers, and it's important, is I don't want to just give you, let's say, movements that I teach you, but I want you to have at least some access to the culture or the pond where it came from. Because when you can reach over the head of your teacher and go to their teachers and influencers, it's going to make you such a more well-rounded dancer. And it's also more fun, because there's not just one way to do any of these dance forms.
100%. And I love that you are teaching history, because I think that's getting lost a little bit in the teaching world, where young dancers, they're doing movement and it's great, and they maybe do it well, but they don't know where it came from. They don't know who started it, where it originated from. They don't know the history behind it, or even why they're moving the way they're moving. It is a good idea to be able to know where this movement came from and the origins of it. So I love that you're teaching.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting, and it can add so much more dynamic. And when I teach hip hop, I also will sometimes sneaking some popping or some locking, or put in a house step, and then be like, this comes from there, have fun, so yeah.
Amazing. Well, again, I'm going to shift gears again. We've talked about the dancer in you, the teacher in you, the choreographer in you, the personal trainer, and let's talk about the host of Dancespeak. And that's how I found you, in case anybody doesn't know the backstory. you were interviewing one of my good friends, Claude Racine, and I don't even know. I think I saw it on Instagram, and I was like, "What is this Dancespeak?" And I was like, "Ooh!" And I listened to an episode, and I was like, "I want to be a part of that." And I think I literally just sent you a DM. It was the most casual. I didn't even do a formal media pitch to you, and I was just like, "Hey, this is who I am. I'd love to do an interview with you." And boom, we had a connection. And the episode 187, just released this week with you and I.
With
And
us.
yes, with us, starring ours. But that's how we connected. And I think you're adding so much value to the dance world. Anything you just kind of want to give us a synopsis for those that are not familiar with Dancespeak, what it is that you do, what do you focus on your podcast, and maybe some of the guests that you had interviewed. I mean, you interviewed 187 people or more. Who are those people? And maybe even including some of your favorites.
Dope. Oh my goodness. All right. On the spot. Best place to be. I'll start with some of the guests that I've had. So, like your episode, y'all, it has so many gems in it. So please check it out. Aisha Francis is an early episode. She taught Beyonce how to walk in her heels. And a lot of the heels choreography and style that you're seeing, to me, like Aisha, that's a lot of Aisha in there. She's a source of it. And she's really fun and she's really open. She literally talks about being stuck in stage behind Beyonce when she was dance captain on tour. Everyone does not share that. I've interviewed like Phil Wright. I love Phil Wright's episode because it speaks to work ethic and he's gone so far in his career. Robin Anton, she founded the Pussycat Dolls, which is a group that I grew up with and also is one of the owners of Playground. Nicole Kirkland, she talks about the realness of being also an influencer. Very unexpected, but there's so many guests and you can start from the beginning. It is, some of the episodes are explicit, but we say when it's explicit. And what it is it's raw, unfiltered conversations from thrivers. So people that have done phenomenally in and around the dance world. So it might be a choreographer one week. It might be a doctor who works with dancers another week. And the inspiration, the reason to have it is I come to LA, I'm like being told all of these, do this, don't do that. And it took a while until I started auditioning and also just being around for a while between New York and LA until people started giving me gems that I was like, this I wasn't told. Or, you know, when I was auditioning for Lady Gaga and Richie Squirrel is like giving us a speech inside, I would have had access to that speech if I didn't make it to that round in that audition. And I remember Antoine Troop sitting down with him and being like, can I ask you some questions about your journey? And I just knew that the information I was getting that people were sharing with me, I wasn't seeing it anywhere else and it couldn't end with me. What I believe in is dance and the industry. It's very perfectionist. Like we're always just, we got to be better, better, better. Don't let anybody see us sweat. Don't let anybody see us mess up. When you see dance shows and not knocking it, but it's usually like a 1 minute background, but people are not usually going to share about the times they got fired. They're not going to share about living out of their car. There's so much you would just never know. And so I love just getting those authentic stories. It's heartwarming. It has us all feel more connected. And then I learn a lot. Like I've had multiple people talk about getting fired from major jobs, which is not something you'll normally see posted on social media. So, and you can get it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can go to dancespeakpodcast.com, Google Play. Yeah.
And I love that you said being fired on a job. I was one of those people that was fired before I was even officially hired. Or I was hired, but that was fired. You just have to watch the episode. But the short version was, I got hired for Christina Milian's tour, who was opening for NSYNC. I show up to rehearsal, and there was a big misunderstanding. They thought that I was in Canada, which I was. So they ended up booking somebody else that showed up, and then I lost my spot. The whole backstory is in the episode. So it's a little plug to go watch the episode.
Yes. The full audio is through audio. So I like to listen to podcasts when I'm like, if I'm traveling from point A to point B on the way to
driving,
I have to do. Yeah. Housework, stuff like that. Yeah. It's just, you learn so much and then it makes it more human. So sitting down with people that I admire and like sitting down next to Nicole Kirkland and talking about online bullying. I didn't know she dealt with that, you know? And there's something about learning by people sharing their stories versus them saying like, and this is what I learned. Like, do this, don't do that. When you learn the why behind it, I feel like it gives you so much more richness and layers to apply to your own journey. So,
well, thank you for uncovering the untold stories. And I love what you're doing. Keep up the amazing work. Dancers, if you don't already subscribe to her podcast, check it out. You're on the multiple platforms. So whatever it is that you listen to, Spotify, Apple, any of those things, check it out. Listen to it in your car rides. I know a lot of you are in car rides to competitions and conventions. You can do that.
It'll be inspiring.
Very
It's super inspiring. I get hyped. I get amped. And also follow us on Instagram at Dancespeak Podcast. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to open up the floor to our lovely Business of Dance mentees and give them an opportunity to ask you a question. So, Stella, you got your hand up first.
I am Stella Wood, and I'm from Walkertown, North Carolina. And my question is, what is one of the most interesting interviews that you've done?
Whoa.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. One that pops into mind is Adechike. He was on one of the seasons of So You Think You Can Dance, and he made it pretty far. And he talked about how he had quit dancing before. He also did Fela, which is a great musical. He was a swing on Fela, so he had to learn all the parts. Not easy. And before he hit these milestones in his career, he had actually quit dance. I'm not recommending to quit dance, but he had so many things that were stacked against him. His apartment burned down while he was in high school. We actually went to high school together. Wow. Yeah, and he is such a fly individual. You would not know what was behind it. But, and also, I think there was like teachers that told him, like, pursue something else. You're not that good. He had people talking against him, and he always shows up positive, and he's also undeniable. Like an undeniable, he's now acting and doing really, really well. Yeah, it was super interesting. No idea that's what he went through. And also he was told he couldn't do it. And also he had even quit. That's how discouraged he was. So he was one of the really early episodes. Good question.
I love that. Thanks so much, Stella. And we're going to go to Chloe.
Hi, my name is Chloe. I'm from Louisiana. And my question is, what was your most challenging job or like opportunity, but you learned the most from it?
Prince, and I worked as the assistant choreographer. So I was not the assistant choreographer. We had an associate choreographer, assistant choreographer. I was what we call green. So I had done dance work, but I had never done a big industry job. Prince is one of the biggest jobs that you could do. Although one of the things I was told by the team, the choreographer, Danielle Ortiz, she was mentoring me, and she through it. I remember she said, there's no such thing as a big job, meaning treat every job with high stakes. One of the most challenging things about it, besides them being not thrown, I was boldly jumping into a whole new world and just didn't know as much as everyone else, was that I was so stressed. Because of course, you're on a big job, I'll call it a big job, with a super artist. I need to support the choreographer. I need to prove myself to her. And one of the things that happens when you're nervous is that you forget things more easily. Where nerves can work against you, they can. And so I was nervous the whole time, and I felt like I was making silly mistakes, or my retention in choreography wasn't what it normally is. And I learned every day. I learned multiple things every day. It really prepared me for the rest of my career.
Awesome story. I love that. Thanks so much, Chloe. Love the question. Victoria.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm from Stillingshurst, Michigan. I actually just moved recently to Auburn Hills, still in Michigan. But yeah, my question is, you had mentioned hearing out about a lot of tidbits from, auditions and stuff like that. I was going to ask, what would you say is the biggest little audition advice or tidbit that you would have loved to know sooner?
There's actually one that I came to for myself that I have a theory that I came up with, because you audition, you put your all into it, you do how you do, you get hired or not. And I have a theory. Number one, don't put so much pressure when you start auditioning. Get through loads of auditions and understand that you have nerves that you're going to work through that are going to stop happening out of virtue. Not that you won't be nervous at all, but I noticed once I started being in the same room, because there are only so many places where they'll have auditions, I started feeling more comfortable. Once I started knowing the people around me better, I started feeling more comfortable. I think understanding auditions are not just a number game for they're choosing X amount of dancers out of a big group. It's also a number of how many auditions have you done to where this becomes normal for you and more comfortable, and give yourself the grace of that. And I think that's actually the biggest thing. the auditions, like what everyone was saying when you got in almost was they want to see personality. They want to see who you are. And I think also something that isn't spoken about is if they're used to seeing the same face again and again, they're going to start noticing the same face. But yeah.
So getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, doing it over and over again, and getting used to the process. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
I'll give you one more just so, Victoria, so you can walk away, because I did say like people were saying stuff, and I'm also trying to remember like what was told. I just know I was like, I wish more people were here. Like the Lady Gaga audition, Richie was talking, he wanted to see who you are. He likes quirky. He likes kind of weird. I think, we were making it about being perfect, and he was like looking for a unique individual for his team. And I wouldn't have known that until I was in the room seeing how much that mattered to him. Like I saw him say to somebody I knew, he looked at her for a second. He's like, there's something broken bird about you, but I like it. You're going to go to the next round. And I'm like, I'm not saying try to dance like a broken bird, but what I was getting from that was like, there was something about her that was unique. Maybe wouldn't work for another audition, but he loved it. Wouldn't know that until I was in the room.
Mm-hmm. Be your authentic self, as perfectly imperfect as you are.
Yep.
Love it. All right. Thank you so much, Victoria, for the great question. Maya.
My name is Maya Cologne. I am in England. And my question is, what is your best tip you would give to someone wanting to get into the industry?
Ooh. Well, I would first say, I have a question for you. Which part of the industry? What does that mean to you? What does that look like?
The TV, commercial, that kind of.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. 2 tips. Number 1, start doing your research. Look at I think a lot of the time artists were afraid to box ourselves in, and in the process we get so broad that we're like, I would say start getting specific with the jobs that look like ones that you would love. So if it's a TV show, if it's commercials, look at the jobs and start breaking down who are the choreographers, who are the dancers, how are they, what techniques are they using, what makes them stand out, and start deconstructing it that way so that you can start preparing in that way, right? So let's say it's like the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which I think just wrapped shooting, but oh my gosh, blanking on Marguerite Derrick. Okay, she's the choreographer. Okay, look at more of her work. Look at her dancers. Who is she hiring? What are they trained in? They're phenom jazz dancers. So that means you have jazz, you have ballet, but also it's a period piece. So maybe you're taking some classes in period dance from the 50s and from the 60s. Yeah. And you start breaking it down that way and getting really specific. And it won't have you only be good for that job. It'll just have you start being more specialized and targeting it. And then maybe she's teaching a workshop online, so you take that workshop. So I'd say break it down. And then the other part, I would say be a bold student. So just be hungry. Learn as much as you can. And I know that's part of your question. Understand there's so much training that goes into being booked for that we don't know, because by the time you're that seasoned as a dancer, it all seems seamless, right? But give yourself a lot of time to just learn and learn and learn and ask all the questions and put yourself out there. Ask the questions, which is what you're doing now.
Awesome question. Great answer. Thank you so much. I'm going to call out Bella.
Hi, my name's Bella. I'm from Seaford, Delaware. And I was wondering how you would recommend we balance taking classes and auditioning and traveling for jobs at the same time, because I know you mentioned how the classes has an important impact on you and how you think your career can flourish. So how would you recommend?
Sure. I would say, first of all, always be learning. So jobs will also teach you a lot. So always be always be able to put on your student hat. I would say train. And when you want to start auditioning, because we don't know really when we're ready, it's ready when you declare, start finding auditions. So it might be, and I know this is where Menina is an expert, it might be that you get signed with an agency, or maybe you go to open calls. When you go to those auditions, you're going to see also where you need to pull up on your outside training. So you might go to an audition and be like, whether you got it or not, like, oh, this was easy for me, or I felt like really prepared. Or you might be like, oh, I need to sharpen up here and there, and use those auditions to sharpen up your skill set in class. And then when you start getting hired, then you prioritize the jobs that you're hired for, and you just literally like prioritize once you know you're starting to get booked. That's really it. Or you're like, I'm hungry. Just prioritize the auditions. That means show up for it. And sometimes you'll show up instead of class, if that's okay to say. And then in between, you take class, and eventually you get hired, and you won't be able to make class because you're on the job. You just go back to class in between the job. So I think it's just making sure, if you're declaring that you're ready for it, like just really show up wholeheartedly, and just understand that class will come second once you start auditioning. I don't know if that kind of, and if you go in there and you're like, okay, I'm getting cut all the time, I'm not making it past the first round, that's probably a good sign to keep on like hard training in between, and then seeing when you start booking. And Manita, if you like, it's a tough call. It's not the most obvious.
No, and I agree with you. And one of the things too, a mindset shift, is look at every audition like a free class. Because at the end of the day, it is very much like a free class. You're learning a combination, you're performing it in groups. And if you take off that pressure as well, it also, you treat it like a class, then it's not so nerve-wracking. But yeah, when you're not auditioning, you're in class. When you're auditioning, you may not be in class, but maybe you book a job, so then you can't take class, but then you do that job and use that as your class because you're learning new material. You might be learning a new style of dance. A lot of the styles of dance that I learned on the job. I learned how to waltz on the job. I learned how to salsa on the job. I learned how to swing on the job. And you just treat it like, again, a class. So every opportunity, think of it as a class, whether you're getting paid to take class or whether you're paying to take class. Everything's a class at the end of the day. You're training, you're auditioning, or your rehearsals, and you're performing. It's all dance at the end of the day. As long as you're moving your muscles and challenging them and challenging your brain, you're actively progressing.
And I think one of the notes I'm realizing that the teachers were giving us, that maybe I also interpreted in a different way, was sometimes I get really confident in class. Once you get really confident in a class, it doesn't mean don't take it, but take classes that challenge the confidence, and also take that confidence and bring it into the audition space. Don't shy away from auditions because classes are more comfortable. I think that's also what they were trying to tell us.
100%. Get into the classes you're not good at. Because it's very easy to shine in the classes you're good at. But get in those classes that you struggle with. If hip-hop's not your thing, if ballet is not your thing, if roller is not your thing, do it, because it's always good to have it in your toolbox, because you never know when you might need it.
Yeah, and it can even be fun. Like, have fun. I'll go down in flames in a class. I take classes I'm uncomfortable in all the time because I want to learn. I'm always hungry to learn. And if I'm messing up, I'm like, first of all, I showed up, but on me for doing something out of my comfort zone. And like, also dance is fun. That's why I started doing this in the first place. Like, you can have fun while the flames are flaming.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Bella, for the question. Let's go to Priscilla.
Hi, I'm Priscilla Camino. I'm from Stafford, Virginia, and I'm asking, what's a tip for picking up new styles of dance, more specific to hip hop, since I've taken hip hop before and I'm not like bad at it, but I do want to improve and like grow so I can like be more like part like that genre. But you also mentioned like period pieces, so go taking like period classes, like just picking up new styles.
Something I always like to do, and let me know if this is what you mean, is if I can, I'll take what I was doing when I was training heavy and when I was more your age. I would take a basic class where they're like super breaking it down. So I'd take a class that was my level or slightly what I thought was below, that would almost be easy. And then I would take a class a level ahead that was a push. And so subconsciously, I believe like you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to shortcut some of the gems. But when you have to keep up, your body is gonna subconsciously take on a lot of the things you're seeing in the class, and it'll have you progress faster. And then that class that's your level or more foundational is going to break down the things so you're not missing some elements from it. You know what I mean? So like a super basic hip hop class, I might be talking more about where hip hop comes from and like get really into specific steps. But then if we're breaking it into choreography or getting into polyrhythms or something, like that's the challenge. So I would say that. And then when you're getting into the style, do some research, like Google it, learn about the history. Even it could be like 5 minutes of reading that gives you a better understanding of it. So is that what you meant, by the way, when you asked the question?
Yeah. So just like getting to know like the style a bit more.
Well, yeah, I would say get into different classes, get into classes at different levels, and then do the background of where the dance comes from. And with hip hop, I would tell you, like one thing to do is even look at Mop Top. They're a dance crew out of New York, and they were in the pioneering generation. So when hip hop was becoming hip hop, they have like new school, middle school, old school dance dictionary. I would look that up and then look up Mop Top and see them dancing, and then you'll see other links. Although like a lot of things were not being filmed and uploaded, YouTube didn't even exist back then. You're going to see also some clips. And if you can see dancers doing it at different points in times, you can also see the progression. And then I would look at some of the, like, what are the influences of the time? There's classic movies like Beat Street, Breaking. Then you have a film called The Warriors. The Warriors is not a dance film, but it's a cultural piece from that time. So when you see how people were talking and walking and acting, when hip hop was becoming a thing, it's going to go into your mind. And then when you see certain steps, you started to get like the flavor and the persona that it's coming from, which is going to make the dance more dynamic. So even just how I broke, like, that's what I would say to do for hip hop. And you can do that for every genre of dance. Find out who the pioneers are, find it from different generations, find out what they're watching, the different elements, how are people dressing and talking in that day, then have fun with it, like exploring and learning.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Cam.
I'm Canum. I am from New York, just about like an hour and a half from New York City. Yeah. How do you balance nutrition as a physical trainer? What are like some tips for nutrition, especially traveling so much or like on the go? Like I am in and out of the city, and it's just so busy that like sometimes I'm like, okay, and I grab something quick, and then it's like halfway through the day and I have no energy. So it's like, how do you balance that on the go?
That's a phenomenal question. And also like feel free to reach out. Okay, some tips. First of all, being fully hydrated. So always have water with you, but not only water, electrolytes, because when you're sweating, you're not only sweating out water, you're sweating out other things you need. So a lot of the time you're missing electrolytes, and that's going to have to do with energy. Really listen to your body. Practice listening to your body. Notice the signs of when you're hungry and noticing when you're starving, and start trying to backtrack and see, well, when am I like halfway there? Because you don't want to be starving. I would recommend if you need quick energy and let's say you're between classes and you don't want to feel like you're digesting a lot. Yeah, that's one. Fruit can be really good and easy to digest. Dry fruit, because you're burning carbohydrates for energy for the most part in dance class. And then something that I did when I was doing the intensive, because I know it can be back to back and crazy. You want to experiment, Cam, with like different things that work for you. And this is for everyone, because what works for me might not work for you the same. Get like Trader Joe's has a smoothie that has coconut water, that's electrolytes, some almond butter, banana, that's potassium, that's carbs, that's protein. And I would just sip on it like here and there when I started feeling hungry, but was still dancing. So I would say that's a hack that I like. It might be a little bit too heavy, so you might need something that doesn't have so much healthy fats and protein when you're dancing full out. Yeah, pre-pack more food than you think you need to. Keep on experimenting with how much. I tend to underestimate. And then you want to, when you're done dancing, if you can, or working out, if you can eat within an hour of being done, it's going to be beneficial, because what that tells your body is that you're going to use the food that you're putting into your body to rebuild the muscle and re-up on your energy stores. If you're waiting too long, your body is going to be like, okay, we don't have much, and you're going to be burning muscle for energy. That's actually everybody. If you're dancing intensively, nonstop for hours on end, your body is likely starting to break down your muscle for energy, and you don't want that. So it's starting to, not to freak anyone out, but you're going to it's weakening you, and it's also more likely to get injured. So I hope that helped, but know that you're burning out carbs for energy when you're dancing. So you want to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
That's great advice. And one thing I want to commend you for saying, which I love, is the whole electrolytes. But you mentioned coconut water. Coconut water is my go-to for electrolytes. And I know some people may disagree with me, but I am not a fan of Gatorade or any of those types of drinks that are constantly promoted as, oh, they have electrolytes. Yeah, that's a great marketing scheme. But at the end of the day, if you look at the ingredients, it's just sugar-colored water. It's not really substantially healthy for you. Whereas real coconut water, especially if you can get it fresh, I mean, that's the ultimate. If you get it fresh, chop the top off, be able to eat the meat, oh, that's the best That's the best way to get your electrolytes. And a couple little my superfood favorites for me personally that I think are amazing. Just show of hands. Anybody know what maca is?
I had some this morning.
And so did I. If you don't know what maca is, it is a root. I believe it's grown in like the Amazon, Southern America area. It is such an amazing superfood. I take it in powdered form and I usually put it in my smoothies. If you need energy, it's very clean, good energy. The other thing is, anybody ever eat just straight raw cacao, like cacao nibs? No? Okay, put that on your list. Cacao is an antioxidant. Cacao is how you make chocolate, but chocolate is milk and sugar and all the other stuff that don't make it so healthy. But straight cacao, like just the bean itself, I put the nibs in my smoothies. Sometimes I'll sprinkle it on some kind of yogurt parfait that I'll make. And also just a small dose. I'm not a caffeine person, just a small dose of natural caffeine that will just give you a little pick-me-up. So those are my two, maca and cacao. If you don't have it, pick it up, throw it in your smoothies. It'll give you the energy that you need. And clean energy, not fake energy like Gatorade.
And one thing also, these are amazing tips, Nina. Something I wish I knew, like when I was a teenager, I was comparing my body to grown-up, so like fully formed adults. And what your needs in terms of what you eat and the way your body is processing things is still going to be a little bit different. I was just like, once I was not a straight up kid, I was like, okay, I'm a grown up now. And I was putting this pressure on myself. And I don't know if you go through this at all, but knowing like it's truly like being in your teen years is its own beautiful, unique thing. And the way that my body was, I hope this is okay, I'm sharing this, but it kind of stayed in this like had that set of rules from teenage through like mid-20s. And then my body changed again. And it's like, yeah, I just wish I like gave myself more space for that. And then also always just learning to listen to your body, like listen to when you're hungry, listen to when you're thirsty. We deny so many things as dancers because we're used to pushing and being full out. But the better you can listen to yourself, the more you can catch things ahead of time. That could be injuries, or the more you can tap into like when you're really powerful.
100%. Great question, Cal. I'm glad you mentioned the nutrition. And you can dive in a little bit deeper in the nutrition resources that we have for you in the business of dance as well. So if you want to learn more about that, dive in. But I love it. My goodness, I hate to say this, but we're kind of at our time. So before we wrap up, Galit, any final words of advice that you would like to share with these amazing dancers and everybody else that's listening that you'd like to share? Final words.
Ooh. First off, I really want to acknowledge everyone here. The fact that you're here, and I know in all different time zones, with this hunger and care to learn and be mentored, that already shows that you are ahead of the game. Like, keep working like this. What you're doing right here is the thing to do. And I would say something I like to share with the dancers I work with is sometimes like the thing that you need to work on in your dance, like does anyone have a note they get all the time or something you feel like makes you a little extra unique? That can also be your strength. Like take the notes, but also don't shy away from that thing that makes you different. And I'll give you an example. I know someone, she's a phenomenal dancer, like top at what she does. And she was always told you dance too fast. And yes, there's something for that note. She needed to breathe and slow down. But while she was working on that, she worked on refining her overly fast dancing and created this whole different form and style. I'm just not sharing who it is in case they're not okay with me sharing, that now like tons of people are doing, you know? So I would say also just like lean into the thing, or I always felt certain things about me like didn't fit in. And when I started actually not trying to hide anything and like leaning into it, I started working more, I started feeling better. So I'd say like sometimes that thing that's a little bit off center, it just needs to be refined and loved a little bit more. I hope that makes sense, you know, whether it's your hair or a personality trait or whatever, like lean into it. Don't be afraid to.
I love it. Beautiful advice. Dancers, let's give Galit a big heart. We love you. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge, your spirit, your energy. We received it. We are inspired. Did anybody learn something new? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Give us some love. And Galit, where is the best way again to find you? And how can you be in touch with you?
Thank you. Instagram is the easiest at GoGalit, GalitGogalit. You can DM me. If I'm not responding, just go in the comments I DM'd you. Easiest way to send a message, email galitdancefriedlander@gmail.com. That's my first name, Galit, Galit, dancefriedlander@gmail.com. And yeah, if you're interested, if you have questions, if you're interested in the courses I spoke about, you can also go to gogalit.com. That's the last one I'll give, GOGALIT.com. Gogalit.com. It has online courses and also personal training breakdowns. But yeah, if you want me to come to your studio, or you have questions or anything like that, DM, email. And
Amazing.
I think that's it.
You are a rock star.
And that concludes another episode of the Business of Dance podcast.
We hope you found today's conversation insightful and gained valuable knowledge.
Be sure to join us next time for more inspiring interviews with top professionals in the dance industry.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to The Business of Dance on your favorite platform and take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated.
This podcast is brought to you by the Business of Dance online mentorship program to help aspiring professional dancers create their dream dance careers.
Thank you for listening. Until next time.